And I am live talking about movies once again. Guess what? I have seen Tron Ares last Friday. Yes, I am very late. I was hoping to get some guests around. Nobody came, that's fine, that happens, I'm now used to it. So, we will have a full review of Tron Ares. And yeah, hopefully you will enjoy the way I did if you end up watching that movie. That movie is heavily criticized and hated by pretty much a lot of people, most critics actually. And when you really look at the fan base, there's some kind of support here to some extent. Anyhow, let's get into it. We will have full spoiler about Tron Ares, and we will also talk about the other two movie. Why not going too deep into the other two movies? So Tron Ares takes place several years after the original movie and the Legacy one as well, which is very interesting. This is what happens when you take some years without making any sequels. You end up making, you know what? Time skip. Let's reboot without really having a full reboot. Let's call it a soft reboot. So now we will do the usual thing. We will go through the plot. And again, be advised, we will have spoiler ahead. So let's get into it. I'm trying to find the right page. Tron Ares. So that movie is kind of poorly received a lot by people that just hate uh, Jared Leto. He is Ares in that movie, and he's like, I will say he's the best part of that movie. Surprisingly enough, usually he's just really bad, but yeah, let's get into it. Runtime 119 minutes, so it's almost 2 hours. It was made in the USA, it's in English, and the budget was 180 million. The box office was 68.7 million, which is really bad. It's it's awful. That movie not only underperforms, but yeah, it's really bad numbers. It doesn't bode well for a sequel, and it's kind of sad because I will be honest, I like all three movies a lot. They are very fun movies. So to see no fourth installment on that franchise would be a shame. But hey, maybe that's a sign you should spend less money on your movies. I don't know. So, uh, outside of Jared Leto, everyone is a nobody. I don't remember seeing any of the other people involved in any other projects, and I might be wrong there. I might be crazy, but I think Jared Leto is the only person that's kind of known in that lineup. It was made by Disney, which doesn't surprise me because I will be honest, I see cringe. Like, you can tell most of these characters are like DEI things. Like, there's a lack of white people, and the white people are the bad guys. There's also that probably, yeah, I won't go too deep into DEI, but this is a DEI thing. And I try my best to not see it that way, because again, I did like that movie a lot. So politics aside, that was a fun experience. So let's get into it. The plot. 15 years after Sam Flynn attempted to retrieve his father Kevin from the grid, income and Dillinger systems, led by former income executive Ed Dillington, grandson Julian, raised to bring digital construct into reality, which is kind of something that I might be wrong on that, but I do think we are very close into that. That's called 3D printer, and I heard that movie was like in L production or some kind of stuff like that. So by the time they were drafting the idea, it was brand new, but now it's, I don't think it's brand new. I might be crazy there, but I do think we have 3D printer already. Encom Chief Executive Officer Eve Kim and her partner Seth Flores visit the remote Alaskan station set up by Kevin Flynn decades ago, believing his computers hold the permanence code to break the 29-minute barrier holding back the construct. After finding the code, they transfer a digital orange tree into the real world where it lasts for hours. We just solved world hunger, right? This is what the movie wants to tell you. We'll see how it goes, but I mean, that's what the movie tried to say. Meanwhile, Julian introduced Ares, a master control program, MCP, to shareholders, calling him the perfect expendable soldier. And I just realized as I go through the plot, I see very interesting idea where the good guys they want to use that machine to bring food, and the bad guys to bring weapon. So this is a very anti-military movie, which is very interesting to think about. Let's keep going. Ares shows self-awareness, noting Julian's indifference to his survival and interest in real-world phenomena. After Ares dematerializes, Julian's mother Elizabeth expresses concern about the lifespan that is limited. Julian disregards this and later uses Ares to attack Encom's mainframe for the code. A security fight ensues as Ares downloads Eve's personal data. During their escape, Ares, despite his programming, tries to saving an injured program named Chaos, but Julian pulls him out and disables Encom grid. And you know, I've seen a lot of things about AI. Just imagine if we really had like everything stored in AI, and how someone could just control it or steal any data. Digital ID is so dangerous, and that movie is like the perfect example of digital ID being turned upside down and used against people. That's crazy. That movie is kind of clever in some ways. Even Set return to Encom with a flash drive containing the code. Their colleague AJ Singh warned of Julian cyber attack, forcing Eve to flee while Julian and Ares track her, with Ares and his second in command Athena chasing Eve on light cycles. Eve hits Athena and hijack her light cycle. Sorry about that. But Ares corner her in a nearby port where Eve destroys the drive. Ares recognizes Eve empathy as Julian digitizer to the Deligear grid before Ares and Athena resolve. And that's another very interesting aspect where the villain has literally no empathy whatsoever, while the good guys, they do have said empathy, which is interesting. But yeah, that's a fun touch there. Julian becomes more determined to retrieve the code. Ares reveals it can be obtained using Eve's identity disk, but will delete her as a result. Julian accepts the risk. However, Ares then lies to Athena, claiming that Julian is indisposed and attempts to bargain with Eve, asking to achieve permanence in exchange for Eve's freedom. Suspicious of Ares' behavior, Athena contacts Julian in return with order to Ares and Eve are able to evade their pursuer and return to Dillinger headquarters, where Julian mocks Ares as they escape en route to Encom headquarters. Eve and Ares reflect on their motivation, with Ares determining that Eve pursued the permanence code out of a sense of inferiority to her sister, who worked on humanitarian project. So what the movie is telling you? The movie is telling you you need to be humanitarian, you know? And that's very interesting. Um, that's unfortunate. My cam glitched out, and no more cam for now. But let's keep going there. Um, Ares determined that Eve pursued the permanence code out of sense of inferiority to her sister and worked on humanitarian projects. You see, I all of these leftists that push for far left stuff. Did you do any humanitarian project? Like, did you really help out, or all you did was like writing something in Hollywood and thinking you will change the world? I don't know. Maybe some did. Maybe they should stick to that instead of bashing it into the movies. I don't know. Eve realizes a copy of the code might be stored as a museum piece at Incom. They reunite with set to digitize and upload Ares onto Flint's original grid. Athena destroys the particle laser to trap Ares and then pursue Eve. The sprinkler system activates and Athena shows a moment of self-awareness before dematerializing. AJ and his assistant Aaron arrive, and Seth and Eve explain their plan to use Athena on particle lasers so they can free Ares and toward Julian. You know what? That moment there with the sprinkler, it's mentioned. Like, how the F did these sprinklers just went on like that? Like, there was no fire, there was no heat. They were just wreaking havoc and destroying the place. But these sprinklers, they went off at the right moment, so Eve was saved. This is what happened. This is BS. I hated that moment. Anyhow, let's keep going. With Elizabeth reinstated as CEO, she tries turning the particle lasers, but Athena rematerializes and fatally stabs her, reminding Julian about his instruction to obtain the code, or Flynn's primitive grid. Ares encounters an aspect of Flynn, and they discuss Ares' desire for permanence. Intrigued by Ares' wish to live permanently in his internal confusion, Flynn grants Ares the permanence code before Ares rematerializes in Flynn's arcade in a new suit with white highlights. Athena pilots a recognizer into the city and find Eve, and eventually capture her while the Encom staff breach the Dillinger grid. After Athena captures Eve and prepares to return to Dillinger, Ares intercepts her. Engaging Athena and her allies, AJ, Seth, and Aaron penetrate and shut down the Dillinger mainframe, preventing any of the Dillinger program, barring Ares from rematerializing. A wounded Athena permanently dematerialized in Ares' arms. The authorities raid the Dillinger headquarters, but Julian uses the laser to digitize himself. Eve and Ares go their separate ways, with Income using the permanence code to benefit the world instead of making weapons. Ares later sends Eve a postcard about his life outside the grid and plans to find Sam and Koa. Meanwhile, Julian enters the damaged Dillinger grid and is transformed by an identity disk that belonged to his grandfather program, Sark. So even when I look at that cast, I don't know anybody. Maybe I haven't seen enough movie, or I'm just stupid and I've seen them and I don't remember it. But hey, um, that was the plot. Um, I will be honest. When you really look into it, there's a lot of really good things, but there's also some bad things. When you really want to approach like the more political aspect of that movie, this thing is terrible. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. It's dated. Um, it's not great. But hey, here we are. So, in all of that, let's jump into my review of Ares. What did I think of Ares? So again, if you're not ready, well, spoiler ahead. I like that movie despite my gripes with the politics, and I will be honest, the movie is not perfect. It's the worst in the trilogy. I like the second one a bit better, but the first one is like the best one by far. By far. And I feel like every movie in that franchise tried a political comment on something. I think they did it better in actually the first one and the second one as well. Like that one was okay, but the characters were not as good as in the others. So let's get into my issues. Issue number one: dialogue was off-putting, and many characters didn't sound human. They sounded like ChatGPT or some crap like that. Maybe that was the intent, but hey, that's terrible. If you really wanted to do that, that's a bad idea. Don't do it. Characters were forgettable despite an interesting mother and son dynamic. It simply wasn't standing out. Ares simply outshined pretty much everyone else. That movie is like the Ares movie. We call it Tron because that's the law. Rewind. That's the lore. That's the universe. That's the characters, I guess. But it's really Ares movie, and it's a bit unfortunate because the other movies had really cool characters. This time around, sorry to say that, but only Ares was worth your time. My third issue: plot armor high speed bike crash result in no major injuries. Like, it was ridiculous. She crashed into something at like, I don't know how fast she was, and no broken arm, no broken leg. And a lot of people will say, oh, but you need to suspend disbelief. No, she broke the garbage bin with her bike. And you're telling me she has a body that's tougher than a metallic, heavy garbage bin. Don't tell me a human body is heavier and can tank more damage than a garbage bin. It's BS. And anyway, that's so fast, man. I had a bike crash like this summer. I had really bad injuries, and I was going at like 30 kilometer by per hour. So I don't know how much miles this is, but like kilometer, this is what we use here. But I got messed up really badly. So you're telling me that person that goes in probably light speed or above like most cars, she goes there and bang herself on something and she doesn't get injured? Sorry, but that's ridiculous. Stretch it the way you want. It's ridiculous. I don't like the physics in that movie. Now, let's get into my fourth issue. More of the same. Plot armor, ragdoll the guy, and he's got no major injuries. So we got like soldiers that are depicted as having super strength. He ragdolled the only white good guy, and the guy just come back unscathed mostly, which is ridiculous. You get ragdoll like that, you should lose consciousness, you should have an injury, you should bleed or something. I don't know, I don't care, but like, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. There's no other word. The fifth issue, I said it during the plot: sprinklers randomly blowing up, saving the main character. And again, these sprinklers, no heat, nothing really touched them. Like, it was chaos in the room for sure, but usually you need pressure on it. And I didn't see any. And again, like them, if the action and the havoc that was wrecked around, if they would have triggered these sprinkler, why at that moment where the main character is about to die? I mean, it's awful. Awful, awful, awful. There's no other word. Awful. I sound overly negative. Let's get into the few likes because, again, I enjoyed it. I think it's a good movie. It's a fun movie. It's also a very underrated one that so many people hated. Maybe that's the Jared Leto phenomena. The music was enjoyable. The set design and costume were okay. The action overall was cool. Slow-mo were okay. The visual effects were great, and it's surprising coming from Disney. Despite being the third movie in the franchise, it felt unique and new when compared to the other two. And it's coming from me that just mashed through all of the slasher from the 80s, like the Friday the 13th. That was a chore to get through these. It's always the same crap, except like the one in space. The one in space was actually fun. That's the irony. They tried something new. Like even the boat one, they kind of tried something new, but these were like the only two slash. I'm like, you know what? They are bad movies, but props where props are due. I'm currently watching Nightmare on Elm Street. It's nowhere near as bad as Friday the 13th, but it doesn't feel as refreshing as Tron Ares and the other two Tron. So, the next thing. The movie was great at showing overtelling. Ares going from pawn to someone with free will was cool. So that was his character arc. He became sentient. He became more human than some of the human in the movie, and that was cool. More of that. Movie showed how AI can be hard to control and can become dangerous. So, I think I had a very good time in the theater, and that movie didn't overstate its welcome. It was 2 hours. I didn't feel it. It was a fun trip. More of that. So, take what you will. That was my review, and I will give Tron Ares a 8 out of 10. Now, we get to the next segment. The next segment is the Rotten Tomato segment, where we get to see the critique and the audience. There we go. There we go. Okay. I will also mark down the timestamps. So this is the Rotten Tomato. I think people are so harsh on it because of Jared Leto, to be honest. And it was the best part of it. Again, it was Ares, and I think Ares was the only enjoyable character in that movie. There were nice themes and ideas between the good guys and the bad guy, but they were not great characters. I'm sorry to say that. Let's get into the Rotten Tomato with the first top critic with a rotten score. Tron Ares posits the terrifying possibility that AI may not destroy the human race, but could just be really sanctimonious and annoying with its perfect skin tone and chiseled bone structure and prolonged meaningful eye contact. I'm actually really surprised the critique they didn't get on board with that movie because there's a lot of these leftist idea in that movie. A lot. Maybe it wasn't ham-fisted enough to their own taste. The next top critique. Tron Ares is heavy-handed, dunder-headed, and over earnest, but occasionally funny, charming, essy, and thrilling. I can bet that person um, really like what was the one battle after another because a lot of it was on your face. Ares has all of the effectiveness of an earning call. Dang! These people that hated the movie, okay. Elliot Collins. Tron Ares delivers a visually stunning and narratively shallow experience, ultimately succeeding as a competent action film, but oh yeah, fundamentally by its impeccable sound design, but hampered by a predictable plot and uneven performances. So that person gave a 3 out of 5. I can see it happening. It's not my score. He gave it 8 out of 10, right? But can see it happening. Happening! Let's get into the audience now, the people that enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. Music, action, experience, overall, wait, fantastic. Definitively worth seeing in the theater. You get the full experience. I agree with that. That's a 5 out of 5. Overall, the movie is good. The two things I wish were different is the soundtrack was awful, and there were certain scenes that I don't know how else to describe them, except they may be kind of filler or insert, whatever. 3.5 out of 5. A widely entertaining movie with immersive action sequence and well-crafted storyline that provides great continuity of the Tron story with a 5 out of 5. Oh, that person hated that experience. 1.5 out of 5. Wow. The visual were neat, but this was hardly a Tron movie and was very boring. Disneyfication as God and Tron, and we'll get your favorite franchise next. Well, George. I don't know if he remembers that, but Disney was also involved in the other two. I get what he's saying. I can agree to some extent, but Tron was always like that. He just didn't notice or didn't watch the same movie I did. I don't know. If you hate it because you think it's woke, be you, but I'm not like that. So, I still have blackout screen. I thought I would cancel the screen share. Now this is a time, a very interesting time. I rank the movies. There's only 3 movies, but hey, we must mention these movies, right? Their ranking. So we will start with the last place, and if you've been watching since the start, you may already guess what's in last place. But let's get into it. Tron Ares, made this year, that just came out Friday, is my least favorite. It deserves a 8 out of 10. In second place in that trilogy, that's a very fun sci-fi that I wish we had a fourth one, but it's not likely. But still, the second one being Tron Legacy from 2010 was the 8.5 out of 10 for me, slightly above Ares. And yeah, in first place, we got the original Tron with a 10 out of 10. This is a masterpiece. I have regret I didn't see that thing prior this week because I think I've seen it last week. Most likely, yeah, last week. Anyhow, this is how I ranked them. Tron, Tron Legacy, and Tron Ares. Let's move on to the outro, shall we? Coming next on the channel tomorrow, we talk politics, censorship again because it's something that worries me a lot. I don't want to move in, but like the bad guys that want censorship have a majority government, I'm out. I will most likely go to the USA because over down there, guys are sound when it comes to like freedom of speech and that kind of stuff. Next Monday we got Black Phone and the Black Phone sequel that will come out tomorrow. Next Tuesday we got 2 James Bond. And next Wednesday we have a DC thing. I think it's Bird of Prey or Task Force X to remain YouTube friendly. And this is the planning. If you like the Barbie, you know what to do, right? You do know it. And we are out. See you tomorrow.